right, we are back live again from the California Lodging Investment Conference. That is Clic. And, of course, I want to thank Hyatt for being a great sponsor of our program today. Hey, thank you, Hyatt. We really appreciate it. Bruce Ford is here with me again. I don't know if you called our show yesterday with Bruce, but Bruce and I were just on stage together. Bruce did a great presentation that you might have caught here on LinkedIn Live, which we ran this morning, followed by a conversation that we had, followed by a panel that I hosted myself. But Bruce, I feel like we're at the in the broadcast booth halftime at a football game here.
So you want to go over the plays?
Yeah. How do you think the play-by-play was in the first session that you started?
Well, we talked about California being so unique,
right,
in terms of its development. It's one of the highest cost per key development states in the country. And in many cases, those projects face challenges economically that not every other state would have. In some cases, we're looking at select service product being built in California for in excess of $250,000 a guest room, and it making fiscal sense.
That's unbelievable at this point. I remember when we were talking about when rooms sold for like $100,000, and that was a big deal.
Sure, but in the only other city where this has happened, where it's been the case for a while, is Manhattan. In Manhattan, you build, a Hampton Inn is $300,000 to $350,000 a guest room just to build a Hampton Inn, and in some cases, in the last peak cycle, an upscale hotel reached $500,000 a guest room, and you've had select service hotels in Manhattan sell for north of $500,000 a guest room.
Right.
So, in terms of replicating that magic, we talked yesterday about the Courtyard and Residence Inn at LA Live, and how that particular project, is a swinging success.
Woo. That
project would probably sell today for over $600,000 a key.
That is unbelievable. Congratulations to Greg Steinhauer, the owner, the operator of that property. Right? When I found out that he owned that property, I was like, oh, my God, what an incredible investment. How fortunate were you to get that? But I'll tell you, everybody right now, Bruce Ford is very into investing in Los Angeles. Since the time LA Live was built, man, everything has transformed downtown. People are dying to be downtown. And before Bruce gives that answer, check out our hotel design podcast with Tom Ito of Gensler. He runs their hospitality design practice. They've got an office in downtown LA. They design LA Live. They design a whole lot of other stuff. It's a great show to listen to.
And of course, they're talking about the JW Marriott expansion.
Right? They are. We did talk about that on the show. I learned all about where it's going to go. That was a whole lot of fun. But Bruce, what is going on in downtown LA since that project that everybody is going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over this market?
Well, you get, it's the citywide conventions, Glenn. That's one of the big things that will drive redevelopment in downtown Los Angeles. You have an interesting entertainment district aspect to LA Live that when it was concepted was risky, okay? But today you're seeing now circles of influence around it. So a block around it, 2 blocks around it, 3 blocks around it. You even saw that when you have something as tragic as when Kobe passed, when we were there for Alice, you saw the mass of people and the congestion that can be developed as a result of that. Okay. And so it's still got a ways to go, and there's a lot of construction around it, and certainly, but we even feel it just at Alice that we're in the midst of a citywide convention sellout in many cases. If they have any other kind of event around there, getting into the city on Sunday for the Grammys was challenging, right? And
it always seems to be rubbing up against that. I, for one, am thrilled that the construction pipeline in Los Angeles is so robust, because maybe it'll be easier to book a room and I won't have to put it on my calendar to book one on July 1st for January.
Well, pulled straight from the Lodging Econometrics website, Glenn.
Yeah.
Los Angeles has 160 projects in the pipeline, almost 20,000 guest rooms.
Wow.
It has more projects than New York, although New York has more rooms. New York has 158 projects, 25,825 rooms. So LA, from a project count perspective, leads the industry today. But again, I also said on stage today, if you really add up the 4 big markets of Southern California, being Los Angeles, Anaheim, San Diego, and Riverside, San Bernardino, adding up that, you have more than 3/4 of the pipeline in the state of California is concentrated in the southern 4 major markets.
What's going on in San Bernardino? Because that's not like if somebody said to me, hey, what do you think of the top 4 markets for new construction and hotels? That probably would not be in my top 20.
Do you remember a few years ago, Glenn, when they it's more than a few years ago, but
yeah.
One of the first lofts that was ever built was in Rancho Cucamonga, California.
I do remember, and that's
Riverside, San Bernardino market.
I've always loved the name Rancho Cucamonga. Wasn't that a home office for Late Night with David Letterman back in the day?
Could have been. Yeah. Could have been. He had Worldwide Pants, which was, right. Of course,
his production
funny
company.
In its own right. Yeah. But in Southern California, the franchise companies. When you have Marriott with 30 brands,
right.
One of the big strategies is we got to get all 30 in there, okay? And then we got to have another layer of all 30. And, of course, Courtyard and Residence Inn, the traditional brands that they have at long-standing locations.
Right.
But they're able to continue to expand those additional locations where new demand thrives, but then put in a loft, put an Element, an Autograph, put a Renaissance, put a Le Meridian, all of those, building out the brands, if you will. And, of course, Marriott has, new prototypes for all those brands and new model rooms for all of those brands. And keeping up with the Joneses, if you will, Glenn, in terms of renovation. We talked a lot about that today. You are going to see new hotel supply open on your street corner, and you better be ready with a fresh, competitive hotel that's renovated and can compete better.
Right. And I think that also dovetails nicely into what you were talking about today. As this COVID-19 becomes a little problem and you are suffering some cancellations, now might be a magical moment for you to not panic, but to get prepared for when things do come back, because they are going to come back and it's not going to be terribly long, I don't think.
The suppliers are there waiting for your phone call, Glenn.
Right.
They have product ready to go in many cases. If you're building out a brand specification, there are ways to be able to almost operate that on your own with some light project management assistance, which I think can be much more economically feasible today than ever before. So you kind of have to lean in to the new way,
right,
if you will. Paying a purchasing agent the big dollars that maybe you did before, there might be other ways to execute on that.
Right, but I do find when you work with a purchasing agent, and a lot of times they are able to find those efficiencies for you, and it winds up being a great savings.
I bet you're happy to have them right now if you had product in the pipeline.
Yeah.
You were trying to get the renovation
because
you have a champion on your behalf.
Right, and of course, Bruce is referring to the fact that so many factories in China have been closed for a while, although you said this morning they're back to 60% capacity. That could cause some folks some problems in the near future.
Yeah. Well, we already have delays when you're starting construction today. Right. Once you begin construction, the average project is taking 3 to 4 months longer than anticipated. And if you're perhaps importing product from China, you may suffer another 1 to 2 month delay.
Right.
But the product is still available. It's just going to take a little bit more time to get.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that if the White House continues to go in the direction that they have been with making more tariff harmony versus tariff strife, which is what we lived with at the beginning,
right?
That's a positive as well. A decline in interest rates is a positive as well. It's really setting up for quite a renovation cycle, Glenn.
That's interesting. And I remember back in the bad old days of 2008 that the renovation cycle in a lot of ways helped the suppliers and the vendors out there find some sort of level of success because they transferred a lot of their business from new properties to renovating properties.
In an average year, Glenn, there's probably 2.5 to 3 times more opportunity in renovation than there is in new construction.
Right.
It may be 5 times greater for each of the next couple of years because of just simply we haven't taken the time to renovate for a long time.
Right. So remember that. We all seem to love the new thing, right? It's easy. It distracts you. It gets you all excited. But there's so much money to be made in helping to renovate and in some cases reposition existing hotels. And I think if you're looking at the transactions that are happening, there's a lot of properties changing hands and they all need to be reinvented.
Absolutely. And think forward. What is it that I want to be when I grow up 10 years from now? Okay. Technology, leveraging the technology is a big impact on your renovation today.
Right.
Being energy conscious, being water conscious, trying to do things to think forward,
right,
and put those technology efficiencies in play. Automated revenue management. Imagine how much time you can save, because you can take that down to your phone now. Automated revenue management.
You can, and it's amazing what you can do. The technologies that are out there in order to help you. Even simple things like if you're doing a renovation, take out some of that carpeting in the guest rooms, put in that LVT flooring. And check out the Floor Link by Porcelanosa, a great sponsor of mine over at the Design Podcast. But the fact is...
That reminds me, Glenn, when I was in Cancun last week, Porcelanosa had just done all of the bathrooms at the JW Marriott Resort in Cancun.
Yep.
And I really got to experience, I think maybe as many as 7 or 8 different Porcelanosa products in the bathroom. What a wonderful, seamless process they had, from the faucets to the lavs to the tile. All of it really went together very well. And I know that many designers were quite impressed with the style and the comfort that it delivered in the guest room.
It's really great. I had an opportunity to go over to their factories in Spain a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's a year and a half ago or so, which was a whole lot of fun. But my point with the LVT tile flooring is they've got a great soundproofing thing that goes underneath it. So you don't have to worry about clip clops of high heels, for example, but it saves, it takes 30% less time compared to vacuuming to clean those floors. If you're looking for operating efficiencies, it's really time to start thinking about that. Plus, you get something that's more contemporary and I think appeals better to today's traveler.
It's probably going to last a little longer in the guest room, too, if it's maintained correctly than your average carpet.
Okay, so sorry for maybe plugging Porcelanosa too much, but it is true that LVT floor and the Link floor is very helpful to you. So, Bruce, we had a couple of panels here today. Folks who've been following us on LinkedIn have gotten to watch it. I think that all of that went great. What are you looking forward to in the next half of the day here at the California Lodging Investment Conference?
Well, I want to really hear more from the ground up. I think there are obviously a lot of hospitality professionals here in California that are here. I think they're doing a great job in representing them on the panel from really all aspects. I mean, even on your panel, Glenn, you had people with different, tactile applications in the hotel business. And it's really a very wide variety of people that we're going to have here on the panels in Los Angeles and, in Costa Mesa. And I think that brings a lot of benefit. You don't get this kind of panel lineup at some of the larger industry national events. The localized events is where you can get it. And Craig's really delivering some great content here today. So I'm excited to listen to more aspects of the wheel of hospitality in California today.
Right now all the major brands are up on stage having a panel. I feel a little guilty for not watching them, but we got to bring you guys out there. Great content, and we can't do it all. Bruce, any final thoughts?
Glenn, I'm still just a little bit upset you didn't come to Disney with me, but I'll get over it.
I hope so. Maybe one day we can go together again.
Maybe. I don't know. Did you apologize yet?
I'm sorry that I didn't fly all the way across country to go on one ride.
11 days in a row in Las Vegas?
11 days in Las Vegas. That's right. Forget Robert Downey Jr. I am Iron Man. I survived 11 days in Las Vegas, and I didn't do it the super lame way by, going to happy hour and going to bed at 7 o'clock. No, I manned up.
Stay on Glenn's LinkedIn Live today. He's going to have lots of great guests and bring the California Lodging Investment Conference to you,
right,
the viewer.
Well, I don't know about we'll have lots, but we will be back from time to time throughout the day. I don't know how much energy I'm going to be able to have, but if in doubt, if I die, Bruce will walk over my dead body. He'll take over the show, and we will be back later. I want to thank you guys for all the support, and thanks again to Hyatt for being a great sponsor. Be sure to check out their caption brand while you're at it, all right? Hey, everybody, Glenn Haussman back here with continuing coverage of the California Lodging Investment Conference. That is, of course, Clic. And I am with the incredible Amy Hulbert of Best Western, one of my favorite people. How are you, Amy?
I'm great. Glad to be here today.
All right, so if I don't look directly at you, don't take it personally. We're both going to try to look at this camera here. Ooh, that's a weird thing. There. So, you folks have been doing such great things over the last couple of years, introducing a lot of new brands, really expanding the portfolio to hit a lot of different categories, really transforming the entire company. And now you seem highly focused on that boutique side of the business. I want to know what was really so appealing for the folks at Best Western to be moving in that particular direction.
Yeah, well, it's not just us. 18% of development we're seeing around the globe is boutique focused.
Right.
One of the things that I think a lot of people ask about is, should we be concerned about home sharing? Is that a concern? And when I think about that, I think the boutiques really feed into the desire that customer has to have that unique experience, but have all the life and fire safety that comes along with the hotel and all of the amenities. I like to have a hotel bar to go down to. I like to have a restaurant on site. I like to have housekeeping. So I don't want home sharing is probably not for me, but I really like what the boutiques have to offer because I think it offers a lot of benefits.
I would say, while short-term rentals is definitely a platform that's starting to expand, it really does appeal towards a very specific consumer need at a very specific time. I certainly don't like the idea of home sharing. I'm too old for all of that. I don't even like somebody coming into my hotel room at all, let alone having to share a home with somebody else. But I do like when you have single unit places, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about your newest brands like Aiden and Sadie and that whole boutique movement. And what I like is you're putting a higher emphasis on that food and beverage because you can only get a certain amount of money from a hotel room. You've got to find ways to increase that revenue all around the property to make your owners happy.
Absolutely. And, while Sadie and Aiden are new to us, Best Western Premier is not. So that's been a brand that's been around for 20 years. We have a lot of hotels globally. We're going to double the number of Best Western Premier hotels that will be open and operating this year. So
that's incredible.
I can't be more excited about that.
I think you can be, and I'd like to see it now.
It's just like Glenn Haussman excitement.
That's right.
It's super exciting to me that we're going to have all these great hotels coming into this brand. So it garnered number one in J.D. Power in the upscale. I mean, when you think about who we beat out Hilton Garden Inn, we beat out Marriott Courtyard, Aloft, AC Hotels, Cambria. Great comp set. They all do a great job, and we beat them out in customer satisfaction, and we want to continue to do that. So it's going to be great to grow those. So to me, in our DNA, that's how we started the boutique piece, because we've always had a lot of unique products.
Right.
So that made it an easy transition for us.
Right. That's one of the things I always liked about the brand, the eclectic nature of the brand. Yeah. And now it's been a number of years, but now since you've really made it clear to the consumer what they're going to be getting, I think it's really streamlined the company, and it's allowed you to open up to go down these new venues. And what I really like about what you're doing with the whole food and beverage component is I think you're thinking about the overall value of a particular customer and how to get them to be spending more of that money on property. So how are you doing that? By creating what I like to call that instant community downstairs and getting people to really interact with each other. And while they're doing that, buy more drinks and some food.
Absolutely. Well, hey, listen, we're hotel people, so bars are important. Bars are well loved. I was in one of our Best Western Premier hotels yesterday. We were filming some absolutely amazing training modules for all of our Premier hotels and our boutique hotels to use for that food and beverage piece. And as we were filming the very end of it at 2 minutes to 5, there were people lined up waiting to get into the bar. They were like, "Oh, you're still filming." So we were literally serving them drinks just outside of the filming area, and basically, buying their drinks so that they would kind of keep quiet for us for just a couple more minutes so we could finish our filming. But that's how important that bar piece is.
Right.
And there's just huge upside, and we look at that customized just like we do all of our hotels. So for that food and beverage support, I'm going to have now a food and beverage person. I've one on my staff now. We'll have another one coming on board very soon. So we're really excited about that. This person will be able to help create menus, and they're all customized for areas, making sure that we're fitting their kitchen size, the needs of the market, and we can ebb and flow with them as they see what's working.
So how do you educate yourself and make sure that your newer properties are focusing on F&B? You're doing it the right way, because notoriously hoteliers are not F&B people. So how do you make sure that you're doing the right thing and be ahead of those trends?
That's a great question. And I think you're exactly right. A lot of hotel people aren't food and beverage people. I grew up in a hotel food and beverage family. My dad was in hotel F&B. And so that's one of my loves. But I think a lot of people think that they know what they like, but they don't know how to operate a well-performing restaurant or bar. So that's why having the expertise on staff is so important. And we get in the weeds. We go to the hotel. We really work with them on the specifics to make that all come to life. We've got a great hotel. It's one of our boutique hotels in the upscale segment that's going in Tampa. It's an old cigar factory that we're converting. I'm super excited about this one. But the menus that they delivered back to us were fabulous. I wanted to eat everything. They gave us the menus, and I tried to make some of those things, I think with moderate success. But they hired a food and beverage specialist. They really knew that to get that right and to make those offerings really unique, they had to hire the expert.
Right. And then it seems to me that that's a natural gateway into being able to connect yourself more intimately to the community with which you're in, which is so highly important now.
Yeah. Well, and there's nothing like walking into a hotel, having a bar be visible, the clinking of the glasses, the smell of foods coming out. It feels like hospitality. I mean, that's a big piece of it. It's not just a hotel room and a pretty lobby. It's so much more than that. So for me, I think that is really what differentiates our boutique hotels and a lot of our premier hotels also in the upscale. But they have those pieces that they lend so much to the public space, whether they're a part of the lobby or a separate space. You have that to go to, and it just enhances your experience because there's nothing better than food and a good glass of wine or a cocktail.
Maybe a couple of jokes as well, right?
Well, certainly if you were along for the ride. But.
Yeah, sadly, they'll be laughing at me, not with me. Amy, I want to ask you a couple of questions about you and your journey here. You really started out in design. You've taken on much, much more responsibility over the last couple of years. Did that scare you at first? And how did you get over the hump to reach this level of confidence I see oozing out of you right now?
Well, I appreciate that. And I think probably one of the most fun and maybe originally scary things is to jump into something new. But I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is to make yourself do that and expand yourself. So I love design. I will always love product design. I always will love hotel design. When I was 4 years old, I got a Barbie dream house and I was making custom area rugs and ripping columns out, which obviously meant I was going to be a structural engineer. But design has always been in my blood. And it's been never houses. It's always been hotels. So this transition for me, I love because I own the projects from the time that we get them in development all the way through to brand performance. And so I feel like those owners are my owners. So I want to take care of them, make sure that they're going to perform and have our team, circle around them when they need the help. So
how has your design insight helped you in newer positions? Because that's got to be a real great advantage, especially when being actively participating in creating brands from ground up.
Yeah. Well, and I think brand people can come from a lot of different places, but I do love that I feel like they're mine. I really do feel like they're my babies because I helped to create them and led that process. So that is always going to be something that I feel very attached to. But I think the design piece, I don't know that you can ever do right what you're doing now if you hadn't done the things before. So I worked at the Getty's Group in Chicago in the design and hospitality world for many years, and that was quite a while ago. I worked for Hilton and led design and project management in Latin America and the Caribbean. So all of those things really built, and I came from a hotel family. So I love that, I can even leverage my dad's knowledge. He's retired now, but we have interesting dinner time conversations about, what the value of certain amenities are and, are there too many brands? All of those things that hotel people think about. But all of that builds for me. So I love what I'm doing right now very much.
That's awesome. But if I had to ask you what you're most excited about every day, I would say when you go to the office, but when you go to the airport,
that's right.
What are you most excited about?
Well, the last 3 days I've done 3 day trips in a row, which I won't ever do again. But I love
until the next time.
I know you can remind me of that when I do this anyway. But I love that I'm going to see owners and a different product every day. No 2 days are ever the same. Even if I'm in the office, the days don't look the same. I'm either focused on development. I'm talking to our revenue management team. I'm talking to our sales team. I'm talking to marketing. I'm meeting with our designers and teaching them about the brand so that they can really be brand experts too. So I guess maybe I have a little ADHD, but I love that everything is different and that there's always things swirling in the background.
I think that's the way to do it. That's why I love this career as well. And for all of you folks that are in hospitality or thinking about being in the hospitality industry, that to me is what is so exciting about it, because no 2 days are the same. If I had to do the monotony of it over and over and over again,
that's right,
I don't think I could survive. But I really love going and staying in great hotels and having great food and beverage. With your dad as a food and beverage guy, you probably got exposed to great foods growing up.
Oh, my gosh. Very much so. And I can remember poring over menus at a very young age, maybe stealing a few menus along the way, and really soaking all of that in. So I really love that our boutiques now are focused on that food and beverage piece as a source of revenue and as a part of the guest experience, because I feel like I have something to deliver there.
Right. That's pretty cool. Speaking of stealing menus, when I lived in Park Slope, Brooklyn, and my kids were, like toddlers, they were featured on the cover of the menu at Dizzy's in Park Slope. So thank you for that, Dizzy's. And my mom got so excited she started stealing their menus, and she still has them.
You got to do your research, right? You got to know what the competition's doing, know what best practice looks like.
Yep, that's great. So, what's next with Best Western? What can we expect to hear from you folks this year? And I'm delighted to say that I will be participating in this year's annual conference. I just got asked last week to do that, so yay!
We're very excited.
I'm very excited about being at that. But what are you thinking about this year? I mean, is it going to be the same old, just keep pushing forward? Do you think you're going to be introducing some new programs, especially since now World Hotels is involved? I just got to see Greg over at the Forbes Verified Luxury Summit a couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, I think as a brand, we're really focused on rooting what we've done. I think we have a good foundation for the programs that we have. The brands are really good. They're strong. We're focused on development. We have a new CDO that's been on with us for just a little less than a year, and he's been a terrific asset for us as we start to, kind of spur those along a little bit. And I think that the place that we're at in the economy, we're going to see huge growth potential in our boutique brands.
What's amazing to me is that the executive team seems rather largely in place for a long period of time. David Kong, your CEO, is on 12 years?
I believe it's even more than that. I'm almost 10 years with.
That's amazing.
With Best Western,
and
yes.
Ron Pohl, COO, has been there for a really long time. Dorothy Dowling, I don't remember when she wasn't with you. Right. She runs marketing. Your son plays hockey, right?
He does.
Okay, yes.
I'm a hockey mom.
So what is it about Best Western, Arizona, and kids playing hockey?
Well, we all come from somewhere else. Nobody really comes from Arizona.
Right.
So I'm a Chicago native. My husband's family lived in Canada. His grandmother played hockey. His sister played hockey. So, this is deeply embedded in, I think, a lot of people's DNA.
Right.
And when it's 117 degrees outside, there's no better place to be than the ice rink, where it's nice and cool, and you need your UGG boots and your sweater. Or
maybe hanging out at the bar at one of your favorite Best Western hotels. If you're not there,
could be a little bit of that too.
Must be helpful when you're doing all these trips on weekends like that to always know that you have a good place to stay.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anything else that you want to add today before we wrap up?
I think it's just I can't. Even get out how excited I am about everything that we've got going on, to be number one in JD Power for Premier, to have all these great brands to really root in the coming years, and we're off to a great start. I love, and I couldn't have asked for better distribution geographically, and the differences in some of the brands that we've got going in, a little bit of new construction, a little bit of great conversions, and great partners for us to work with. So our owners are really terrific.
And let me just give you guys a little props, because you brought in the executive residency product a good 6-7 years ago already,
yes.
Right? Sorry if I don't get my years right. I'm getting old. Everything feels like it's either this morning or 10 years ago, and I never know when it was. But you're really ahead of that curve, and it must be fun to really see the universe catching up to that.
Absolutely. And, we did a great brand panel today where we had a lot of great brands participating at the Clic conference, and one of the common threads between all of the brands was how wonderful extended stay brands are, and not only that, the dual branding idea. So We're seeing great growth there. We have people that are really enthusiastic about those dual branded properties that include Best Western Plus, and the executive residency. As a hockey mom, we always love an extended stay product, both for business travel as well as for our leisure travel.
Well, you definitely don't want to puck around with your hotels choices.
Good one, Glenn.
Sorry about that, everybody. Hey, it's Dad Humor Day here at the California Lodging Investment Conference. Amy, how about a good shameless plug on how to find you in Best Western, and give an idea where they could go to invest? Where can we find you guys online for investment?
You can go to bestwesterndevelopers.com, and you can get connected with any of our development people, or I'm always happy to talk about any opportunities.
Exactly. Thank you so much for watching this. We'll be back later in the day with more coverage here from Clic, the California Lodging Investment Conference. So for Amy Holborn and myself, Glenn Haussman, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the other side of lunch. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody, Glenn Haussman back here with more coverage live from the show floor at the California Lodging Investment Conference. That's Clic to you and me, and we're having a great time here today, and it's about to get better for all of you folks out there watching, because I've got Alan Ray of Atlas Hospitality Group who did a great lunch presentation today that really surprised me, Alan. So how are you seeing life here in California and hotels?
Yeah, I think obviously California's a great place for investors to be, especially those that are looking for a long-term basis. And as you saw from today's presentation, a lot of capital has come in for trophy assets from international markets, particularly the Middle East. So
and you said South Korea as well.
South Korea investors are now bigger than the Chinese and a number of other countries combined. So South Korea, very big investor.
Now that is really surprising me. The Middle East part, not surprising to me whatsoever. What is it about folks in South Korea that they want to invest here in the United States and in many cases in California?
I think obviously proximity from South Korea. There's a lot of close relationship with California and the West Coast. It's got a strong Korean base. And actually one of the largest transactions that I didn't talk about at lunchtime is the sale of the Anbang portfolio that is under contract with Mirai, which is out of South Korea. And that hasn't closed yet, but that is a $5.8 billion portfolio.
Right. So let's give the folks listening and watching today a little understanding of what is Atlas Hospitality Group in your area of expertise, so they can get why I have you on for the rest of this program.
So Atlas Hospitality Group is a hotel brokerage firm. We are exclusively focused on California hotels. We've sold more hotels in California than any other company, and we've been in business now for over 20 years.
Now, California obviously is a huge market, but why settle just on California?
Because California, as you saw from the presentation, averages around 300 to 320 hotels sold every year. We average around 30 of those transactions. So even though we sell more than anyone else, it's still only 10% of the market.
Right. And that keeps you busy full time.
That keeps us busy full time. And it's also difficult to deal in different markets and be an expert in every single market. So we've chosen to just focus on California.
Yeah, well, that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, Alan, one of the things that really surprised me during your conversation is how some of these REITs are getting socked right now with what's going on with coronavirus. And the message I took away from it was, hey, boys and girls, collect your pennies and do some investing right away.
Yes, and so just as a disclaimer, I have not invested in any of those companies yet.
Fair enough.
I am watching them very, very closely. But when we look at what hotels are trading for in California, and you heard me mention Pebblebrook, when you look at what that stock is trading for, and they're down almost 9% again today, on a per room basis, that company is trading at a huge discount to what those assets would trade for, as well as a huge discount to replacement cost. And in many cases, they have hotels in markets like San Francisco that just impossible to duplicate.
I agree. And that's always one thing that really surprises me when, panic sets in. I think that's really what's happening right now that we're seeing in the stock market. It's not rational. It's emotional. But this is a good time for folks to take advantage of that if you're investing. But it's got to be really scary for the folks that are operating these REITs to see such a tremendous drop in their stock price in just a week.
Correct. I tried to look back at what happened after 9/11, and the airline stock and the hotel stock took quite a hammering right after 9/11. But as we've seen, they came back and they came back strong. So again, I think the message here, Glenn, is you got to be a long-term investor. And if you look at the markets and the hotel assets that these people have, and these are great assets. And, we're going to talk about later on this afternoon, construction costs. So the cost to replace a number of these portfolios is huge. And as long as you believe in the hotel market and that people are still going to travel and still people are going to go for business, then I think these are good companies to invest in. Make sure that obviously the debt is not higher than what the properties are worth. And again, from a Pebblebrook standpoint, their debt's $142,000 per room, and interest rates going down, so their cost of borrowing is going to go down. So when we clear up with coronavirus, I think the profitability will return to the companies, and Wall Street will again start to love them.
So when something like this happens, how does that affect properties that are trading? Do you think that number goes up? Is it going to go down? What does your predictions for 2020 look like in your world?
I think for 2020, we're going to have a big disconnect between buyers and sellers, and I just think we're not going to have a lot of transactions in the hotel sector.
Right. That's really unfortunate for people that want to sell. But I kind of feel like people have been sitting on the sidelines for so long, not selling. Now they might have missed their golden opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's a great time to be a loan broker.
Right.
And I think that's what you're going to see today, because if I can borrow money, as I said today, in the low threes on a CMBS loan. I haven't looked at home mortgage rates for a while, but I think that's as low as you can get for a home loan. And to figure that you can get that for a hotel, it makes probably more sense to refinance than it does to sell today. That
makes a lot of sense to me as well. And I want to thank Hyatt for being a great sponsor of this particular episode here right now on LinkedIn Live. But I got to say, Alan, that's fascinating. It's a good time to refinance. I'm thinking about that right now in my personal life. Smart move for hoteliers to start considering that too right about now.
Absolutely. To lock in a rate of anywhere that has a 3 in front of it, I'd never seen it in the 30 years that I've been doing this business. So
not even after the Great Recession?
Not even after the Great Recession.
Wow. So let's just sit on that thought for a minute. So now is really the time to get off the sidelines and make those investments when things are scary for everybody else and people are having that irrational emotional panic. I think it's a good time for smart, wise, balanced folks to go ahead and take opportunity right now.
There's no question. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think you would agree that you fully believe in the overall state of the hospitality business as a long-term viable real estate investment.
There's no question, especially in California.
Right, yeah, especially
where you've got restriction on supply, and especially at the higher level, full-service hotels. Everything that you see that's being built today is really the limited service. Marriott Courtyard, Residence Inn, extended stay brands. Very, very few inner city, full service luxury hotels. They're just not getting built.
No, I guess it's just too expensive to do that sort of thing. But if you were to invest in new hotels now, what type of hotel would you be most interested in? Do you have a particular market in California that you think would be appropriate?
Yes, so I would look at those markets that are barriers to entry, San Francisco, West Los Angeles. And to me, the absolute number one choice brand is Residence Inn by Marriott, extended stay brand, fantastic affiliation with Marriott, and they have the highest profit margins.
Yeah, and extended stay in general, a great category to do that. Remember, I've been teaching you guys over here why that's so great, because you don't need to have as many employees. They're cheaper to run. You don't have to sell as many room nights if you're selling one room for 30 nights to one person, right?
That is correct.
So all those numbers pencil out really, really well. But overall in the hospitality industry, is it extended stay that you're most excited about, or is there another trend that you think is going to be coming up that's going to be even more appealing in the short term?
Well, again, because of construction cost on the new side, people are talking about density. So building more units, smaller units, micro units like Moxie by Marriott, less parking. But that's maybe an age thing, that I still like to go into a room that's a larger room or a suite as opposed to a tiny, tiny room. And I think that bodes well for today's millennial. But when that millennial marries and has a couple of kids, I don't see him going back to a very, very small micro unit. They want a larger suite.
I've got this S-eating grin on my face because I've been saying that for the last 10 years. Once they started developing all these brands specifically for millennials that, had no bathtubs or anything like that, or just king-size rooms, and they're super tiny. Because I remember I have twins. When they were little babies, we needed that space. And if you want to have long-term customers, you have to try to deal towards a specific niche, but you have to understand the long-term play if you're getting loyalty from that particular customer over 10, 20 years, right?
I agree. I mean, I remember when Microtel first came out.
Yep.
And they didn't do so well. Obviously, they weren't in areas that were urban markets, but, today's traveler is probably not going to stay with that product for the next 20 years. And I think that when you have that established hotel that has sizable rooms, and it doesn't have to be an extended stay suite, but just a decent sized room, those are people that those are the hotels I think are successful over 10, 20, 30 years.
So let me play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say that we should have smaller rooms because it's cheaper to build. And plus, we're seeing society shift to wanting to be together in that lobby, either alone or intermingling with people. Is that a good argument to make for having smaller rooms?
I think it's a good argument for people to get out there. But I will then say, and I'm sure you've seen this, you go into a restaurant, the millennials are there, and they're all on their phones.
That's right.
And they're texting, so they're not talking anyway. Or if they're in the lobby, they've got their laptop up. Very seldom do you go into a hotel and you see people congregating and having a good conversation like it used to be when we would go there.
Yeah, for sure. It reminds me of going to a library in like 1979. Some of these lobbies right now with everybody on their phones. Very interesting. All right, so what are you looking for in the future? If you want people to take away one thing from this conversation today, what is that going to be?
I think to keep a long-term horizon from an investment standpoint, try to block out all of the other extra news and information that's going on, and look at the fundamentals when you're looking to invest, whether in an individual hotel or into a hotel company, and go for quality.
Are there still a lot of properties out there that you think that you can buy at a decent price and then change the flag and reposition them?
There are still opportunities out there where certain assets are always mismanaged, and I think that's an important point. If you don't have the management skills or the right management people, don't buy a hotel. You've got to be able to manage it. So outside of that, I think that there's no argument that we are at the top of the market, and in order to get real good value add, you may have to just sit and wait to see what happens in this market.
But at the same time, things have been going well for so long. Don't get confused. Now, one slide that you put out there was my favorite of all of them. You put up all of these quotes from all the different hotel industry magazines talking about how it is the end. Be careful. This year is going to be tough, but there's a little wrinkle in that thing, right?
That's right. And all of those quotes were from 2015, which basically in the last 5 years has probably been the best time to be in the hotel market. And the so-called experts were telling everyone, it's over, get out.
Yeah, so don't listen to those experts out there unless, of course, you're listening to me, because I know everything. But other than that, be smart, be sensible out there, and make good, educated decisions based on the numbers, based on the trends, and don't be afraid to trust your gut, right? We've all heard about Malcolm Gladwell's Blink, and the fact is, when you trust your gut, that's listening to a lifetime of experience all formulated into one way. And you've only screwed up in life when you don't trust your gut. So listen to your gut, make smart investments, get out there, buy reposition hotels. And if you all want to give me a sliver of those properties, I'm open for that too. Alan, how can we find you?
All right. Atlas Hospitality, which is www.atlashospitality.com, or alan@atlashospitality.com.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. I want to thank all of you out there for watching our continuing coverage here at the California Lodging Investment Clic. And thanks again to Hive for being a great sponsor here from March through June. And we'll see you guys in another broadcast here. No Vacancy Goes LinkedIn Live. Talk to you guys soon.